Meyer throwing deep upfield. Wide open is Blythe, 25, and he will just walk into the end zone. Touchdown for the Cyclones. This is absolutely unbelievable.
Throw fires deep down the left side for Blythe, and he has the catch. Tiptoeing the sidelines, 20, 10, 5. Touchdown, Todd Blythe, his 4th of the day. Unbelievable.
In that 21st century, doing something mean to it. Do it better than anybody you ever seen. Do it. Screams.
So like, who was your childhood team growing up? Was it Iowa State or Iowa, or was it a different team growing up? As you're in Indianola, so
yeah, that's probably a tough one to ask on Sound the Sirens, just because I mean, honestly, maybe more of a Hawk fan growing up.
That's all right.
I was a big Tim Dwight fan, a big Tavian Banks fan. Obviously, the Davis brothers were great when I was going through kind of middle school and things like that. But maybe a little bit more of a Hawk fan, honestly.
So I see you had an Iowa offer. Did you and I was on Rivals, and that was probably a news site back then, but it said that you didn't visit Iowa. Did you ever get to visit Iowa?
Yeah, I went to a bunch of unofficial visits. I never took an official there. I was scheduled to take an official visit my senior year. I was going to actually go to the Iowa State game, was at Iowa that year. And I was going to go to that, and that was going to be my official visit. And honestly, the week leading up to it, it kind of got to the point where I, in my own head, made up my mind, knew I wanted to go to Iowa State, knew I wanted to be a Cyclone. So it didn't really feel right taking the tickets from Iowa, knowing that I really didn't have any interest in going there. So I called them up, let them know I was going to be a Cyclone, committed to Coach McCarney, and watched the game on TV.
Yeah. So what was your first impression of Dan McCarney when you first met him?
I mean, the word football sounds different when he says it. I mean, he just, honestly, it's the first couple of times I heard him talk, it's hard to picture yourself playing for anybody else after that. So Iowa was probably I'm pretty sure they were the first team to offer me. Iowa State came in right after them. But as soon as I talked to Coach McCarney, it would have taken the world to get me to go anywhere else.
So was he, going 1,000 miles an hour when he talked to you and he's recruiting you like he is on all these press conferences and everything else?
Yeah. I mean, he hasn't slowed down a bit. That's exactly how it is. And I can see him now. I saw him at a game a couple of years ago when fans were actually allowed to go to games. And he still, I mean, he remembers my parents' names, remembers that they were teachers. My dad was a coach. I mean, that's just how he is. He honestly, it's not fake with him. Sometimes if you don't know him, it might seem that way because he's always selling Iowa State and selling what he's doing. But he cares. He truly does. He and Margie were like a second set of parents for myself and every other player that went through Iowa State.
Yeah, I remember I was at the TCU game a couple years ago when Johnny Majors was there standing in the end zone with McCarney, and you could have swore McCarney wanted a pair of pom-poms. I mean, he was just as into the game as he was when he was coaching. I mean, he seems like what you see is what you get guy.
Absolutely. He's not fake. I mean, that's just who he is. That's how he's wired. That's how he's built. He goes a million miles an hour. Practice was always intense. There are no days off when Coach McCarney is your coach. But that's the way we wanted. That's exactly why we all chose to be Cyclones.
So like when you were a little kid, what player did you emulate like in recess? Do you remember?
Yeah, I was actually a running back growing up all the way through my freshman year in high school. Emmitt Smith was that was my guy. I was number 22 all grown up until my sophomore year. I got pulled up to varsity and played receiver for the first time. But I was always an Emmitt Smith fan, wore number 22 and enjoyed getting the ball handed off to me. You get the ball a lot more when you're a running back versus a receiver. But
so you're a Cowboys fan your whole, or are you just Emmitt Smith? Emmitt
really?
Smith.
I mean, in the early 90s is when they were kind of in their heyday, and that's I was 5, 6, 7 years old at that point when they were winning their the last time they were really any good. So I was more of an Emmitt Smith fan than anything else. I mean, I'm a Bears fan just by family and by blood, so that's kind of who I root for now. But definitely it was Emmitt Smith and the Cowboys, just because I think a product of all the success that they were having at the time. Yeah,
I think Jimmy Johnson was actually a grad assistant or a part-time assistant at Iowa State at one time. Am I right? I mean,
yeah, I know he's always been, Iowa State's kind of had some big name coaches that have come through for whether they've been here for several years or just a quick stop. I think like Jimmy Johnson, but I know we always threw him in the program just so they kind of say, hey, look
right.
Who came through here. So
like Pete Carroll. I mean, even though he was there a couple of years. Yeah,
exactly. Who knows if either of those guys remember their time and Ames, but.
Actually, I talked to a friend of mine that's an alumni of Iowa State back a long time before you played that ran into Pete Carroll after he won the Super Bowl, and he remembered this Iowa State guy. So
Really?
he's a similar guy. I mean, as far as faces and names and his lineage and everything else. I mean, he remembers everybody. It must be what the great ones do when they're trying to recruit people, I guess.
Exactly. Yeah, I'm sure, coaches at that level, if they make it to that level, they're all kind of wired similarly. And they can remember, the faces and the names and guys that make an impression on them for sure.
Unless you're Johnny Orr, you just call everybody coach. I mean, that's
oh, when in doubt, just choose a nickname that fits everybody. So
right, exactly. Yeah.
So like, do you remember like your first touchdown at Jack Trice? Who was it against? And like, was it like packed crowd and you were just, how was that feeling? And what?
Yeah, that was, so our first game, my freshman year, we played Northern Iowa. And I remember Brett Meyer, so my roommate, my quarterback all 4 years, he was our starter, but at the first few games of our freshman year, he kind of rotated time with Austin Flynn. And so my first touchdown was actually my first career catch, was a pass from Austin Flynn. So it was just a little corner route from, 20, 25 yards out. Just a little kind of sliding, diving catch in the corner of the end zone for my first career catch. And it was a touchdown against the Panthers. So that was fun.
So do I have listened to your podcast with Brett? Do you keep in touch with Austin?
Yeah, unfortunately, we were just talking today. So,
really?
I mean, I have group chats with a lot of my buddies, and so one I'm on with is with Brett Meyer, Mylan Moses, John Davis, and then Austin Flynn, and we probably talk. I mean, for sure weekly, if not every single day. We're and it's not stuff that I can probably repeat on here, and it's
sure.
It's typical that it's basically the same conversations and stuff that we had when we were 22, for better or worse. Just repeating themselves now that we're in our mid 30s, but now it's fun to keep in touch and keep track of those guys for sure.
So where's John Davis at nowadays? That's a name I haven't heard for a long time.
He lives and works in Omaha.
Okay.
Yep.
Very good.
Yeah.
I think wasn't Austin Flynn who took over after Seneca? Was he the?
No, it's going to be close.
Was it close?
Yeah, there was. So Flynn took over. Flynn played as a freshman. And was the starting quarterback as a freshman the year that Brett and I redshirted. So the year we didn't play, and they went 2-10 that year.
Yeah.
And I mean, Flynn just got his butt kicked week in and week out. I mean, I remember standing on the sidelines as a redshirt, not being able to do anything when we were playing Oklahoma at our place, and they had a couple just absolute creatures that we didn't have anybody that looked like that on our team. And Flynn just got beat up all night. But I mean, if you guys know anything about Austin Flynn, he's a cowboy, he's a warrior. All he does is just snap it back up and go back out there and pick a fight with somebody else. So, but yeah, he took a beating his freshman year, that's for sure.
So was your redshirt year? I was a season ticket holder. He was a lot younger, and that was 2 kids ago. So I had a lot more time on my hands. That Kansas State game, I believe, was one of the last games of the season, and it was like 5 degrees outside. Do you remember that? Was that
yeah.
that
So I want to say one of the last games of the year, I think in a K-State or the one that always comes to my mind, how cold it was the Missouri game. Well, that was at their place. It might have been K-State. Yes,
because they clapped, all you heard was gloves.
Yes. And that was the game that Coach McGettigan, our old strength coach, Coach Getty, got after some of us red shirts because we were all not really paying attention to the game. We're a bad 2-10 team, and we we're all huddling around the heaters on the sideline. So Coach Getty came and ripped us pretty good, and I think shut the heaters off. And for the red shirts, we didn't get the big coats either. Those were reserved for the guys that were playing. So we messed up, and the rest of the game we had to sit there and freeze our butts off.
And from a fan's perspective, I was tailgating in a minivan. And when about 3 minutes before kickoff, all of these van doors open up and everybody goes running into the stadium. And then every time something happened, there was just, you could just hear gloves clapping. There was no noise. And there wasn't many people there either because it was, like you said, we weren't having a very good year and it was cold as heck.
Yeah, so everybody's just clapping in mittens and, count the minutes that they can get back and take another swig of something to warm them up.
Right. So the Iowa game really sticks out to me. Speaking like Austin Flynn, that's the game where I remember he scored a touchdown. And I vividly remember that. I was really young, and then Drew Tate got hurt in that game. Yep. So like an up and down, like we then after that happened, we just dominated them. And they were like 7th, right?
I think they were a top 10 or 15 team for sure. I think they were, heavy favorites coming into our game at our place. I just remember that game was one of the most insane atmospheres, both inside and outside the stadium. When we got there, they pulled the buses kind of through the parking lots there. I mean, it was just an absolute sea of people, and it is every Saturday. But you could notice the difference that Saturday. And I think I heard at one point there were 50,000 people that were just outside tailgating that didn't even get to go into the game. And then I think we won. I think it was 23-3, possibly. But yeah, Drew Tate got hurt in that game. We beat him up pretty good. Alvin Bowen got after him. I know he got hit on the sideline. It was Steve Paris, Greedy Paris, our safety, who Drew Tate kind of scrambled down our sideline. And Greedy came up and, I mean, just put a lick on it. It'd probably be an illegal shot. I'll probably be targeting nowadays, but that was back when you could play safety still. And he came up and gave him a shot. And, Tate kind of tapped out after that one. He didn't win anymore.
So if you said 50,000 in the parking lot, what's it going to be like this year?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. They're going to, I mean, that place is going to be overrun. The expectations have never, I mean, obviously we all know that they've never been this high. I cannot wait to get to the fall. It's scary. It's kind of this is all new territory for Cyclone fans. It's
Right.
I hate to say it, but as a Cyclone, you're kind of like, oh man, everything's going really good. You're almost waiting for the other shoe to drop. So, but we got everybody coming back outside of Jaquan Bailey at the end, and we replace him with the guy who led the nation in sacks.
Right.
So we're okay.
Right.
I mean, the expectations are huge. Luckily, we got a great guy leading the ship in Coach Campbell. And then the players, that lead at things as well, have as much experience and talent and leadership as anybody that's gone through there.
So did you see the Phoenix Suns Nuggets guys, the fight that was in the stands? Like, I'm just hoping that doesn't happen. I mean, I just hope we don't end up on Barstool Sports or something with some fight that happens in the Iowa State stands. I mean,
no doubt. I mean, it could happen. Iowa State fans are always very classy and well behaved, and Iowa fans are just the worst, though. So you can't trust them.
Amen. That's why it's called this, right?
Exactly.
Yeah, that game. That'll be very. Are you going to get season tickets this year?
We don't have season tickets this year. With my schedule and traveling around a little bit for work, it's tough. We always get up to, and we have 2 little kids now as well. My wife and I will get up to at least 2 or 3 home games every year. And then we're going to go out to Vegas for the UNLV game as well.
Cool.
Just my wife and I leave the kids at home. We'll put them in the kennel, put food in their bowl. They should be fine for the weekend. So
I'm hoping you got your plane tickets a while ago, because I don't know if you've looked at them lately, but holy mackerel.
Yeah, we did. We actually went through the Cyclone Fanatic charter that they're doing.
Okay.
Yeah, just to, because we looked at tickets and we looked at kind of doing it on our own and doing our own schedule. And the tickets were just ridiculous.
So before we get too far deep into your career, I wanted to ask you a question, because I know you said you played D-back in high school, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So you guarding Lazard, you're a D-back, you're guarding Lazard. Tell me how that goes.
Well, I mean, I was an all-state DB, as a junior in high school. So, no, I mean, that dude's a freak. We're both tall, but I think that's kind of where the comparison stops. So, I mean, he's our playing weight. He was probably a good 15 to 20 pounds heavier than I was when I was playing. So, I'd like to think I could keep up with him speed-wise and all that, but I mean, look where he is, and I'm on your podcast right now. So
would there be any Urbandale, Indianola smack being talked a little bit?
Oh, absolutely. We were conference rivals. Yeah, we were CIML Central. We played Urbandale every year in every sport. And I mean, Lazard was a dude for Urbandale, but we kicked the crap out of them every year in every sport. So let's not kid ourselves on that.
So you played for Coach Summy, correct?
I did. Yep, Dave Summy.
Yeah, I coached at Winterset for a short period of time, so I knew that's where I remember the name, for our football coach at Winterset talked about him. What was your high school playing days like? I mean, I know you're playing the CIML, one of the biggest conferences in Iowa, but it can't compare it. It's got to be a quantum leap when you entered your first actual going against a Big 12 DB. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? I mean, would you think we had some kids coming from small high schools that have to make that leap? What was that leap like for you? The first time you looked across and you got a Texas DB guard going up against you.
Yeah. I mean, I was lucky that I was able to redshirt a year. And there were times during the season where, my coaches talked to me and we kind of sat down and said, should we, is it a situation where I should play and pull the red shirt? But we were just so bad, and it just didn't make sense. And we had good receivers in front of me with Lane Danielson, Jack Whitver, Lance Young. We had some good guys that have played a lot of football. So it just didn't make sense. So I got a year to redshirt, sit there, get stronger in the weight room was the biggest change for me, getting into a college weight program. and then kind of just being able to go and practice against these guys that were going to be, DeAndre Jackson, the Steve Harris, the Nick Mosers, Ellis Hobbs. These guys were all Big 12 defenders, and I got to a full year of going against them in practice to kind of figure out what that was going to be like. You go against those guys in practice every day, and all of a sudden, for the most part, you get out to the Big 12, and you're not going to see anything better. I mean, obviously, Texas and Oklahoma at that time, they would always have some dudes out there, but I mean, it's going to be far better than what we saw lined up across from me when, a lot of times the Big 12 North, especially with KU and Kansas State and Colorado. So I was fortunate in that aspect, but it's a huge change going from high school to college, to big time, Power 5 D1 college. I actually thought I was pretty fast coming out of high school, and then you quickly learn that's like, oh, you're really not that fast, because everybody just stays in your hip pocket no matter where you go. So it was a big change, but like I said, I got a year to figure it out before the lights were on, the pressure was on.
So when you walked out of Indianola High School and then walked onto the field after your redshirt year at Iowa State, you went from weighing what in high school after being in a weight program that much? How much weight did you put on in that amount of time?
I was probably about 185 to 190 pounds as a senior in high school. Say I was already right at 6'4.5" to 6'5", and maybe got to another half an inch, so got to 6'5.5" by the time I graduated. But my freshman year, I think I played at 204. So I put on a good, a solid 15 pounds for sure. From the time, and I went up to Iowa State as soon as my track season, as soon as I graduated from high school in the spring. I did summer conditioning and summer workouts and 7-on-7 and all that stuff immediately after high school. So I got a full summer or 2 full summers and then a full school year to be in the weight room and just work on getting bigger, stronger, faster, and preparing myself.
Like, have you been in like the new facilities? Like, how's that compared to like your first day on campus? Have you
makes you incredibly jealous. But I mean, Iowa State, honestly, when I got to school, that the kind of the arms race that is recruiting now, and like who can build the biggest, nicest facility with the most toys, that was just kind of starting. With the Jacobson building and the weight room we had and the stadium we had, honestly, we stacked up against a lot of the people that I went on visits to. We were a heck of a lot better than Kansas State. I'd put us up against Missouri any day of the week at that time. We had nice stuff. Our budget wasn't as huge as some of those schools, but our facilities were nice. And then, especially after my freshman year when they built the indoor. My redshirt year, I remember doing winter conditioning over in the rec center on the piece of turf in the middle of the track there. So that was a little different, just for everybody to see while you're just, dying and puking into a bucket. But so that was nice to get our own spot that we could do that, in privacy. But, now it's the stuff they have now is just, I mean, I don't know why you would ever go home. I mean, I'd, camp out in my locker and just sleep there at night. That it's nice. It's going to be nicer than any apartment you can afford. So, and it's all in one spot now. We thought UDCC, the dining center, was as good as it got. Now these guys are eating steaks with just them and the other athletes every night. So they got it pretty good. And I think they know that. And that they've earned it in the school. It's something that they want to do. So it's pretty impressive. That's for sure.
So you think the nutrition has been made a quantum leap too? I mean, as far as, I know the weight training has changed dramatically, but has nutrition, changed quite a bit since you were playing?
It was important. Coach Getty always made a huge emphasis, and we always had a nutrition packet that we had to follow and stuff like that. But at the time at Iowa State, we sat in a section, but we sat with just football players and things, but we sat it was just a regular student dining hall. So it was harder to, kind of keep track of what guys were eating or what guys were doing for meals and when they were getting there and if they're eating what and how they should. And for the guys that are trying to put on weight, if they're getting enough calories and the right calories and things like that, it's different now. I mean, they're under the football roof all the time, so they can really monitor and regulate what these guys are eating and how they're eating, and they can really take care of their bodies at a higher level.
So how many calories are they trying to throw down you guys when you're trying to put on weight? Do you remember how?
Oh gosh, a calorie count. I don't really remember a calorie count. I remember we get kind of a food schedule as far as what we should be eating or what we should be trying eating as far as helpings or different food groups and things like that. One thing that's always stuck out to me is Coach Getty talking about protein and the best kinds of protein. And he always said the better the protein, the fewer the legs. So beef was good. I had 4 legs. Chicken was a little bit better because it only had 2, and fish was the best because it didn't have any. So that was just I don't, whether that's right or wrong. Coach Getty said it, and so I took his word as gold, and that's something that's just kind of always stuck out to me. But I mean, he definitely had a plan. It was just harder for them to watch and regulate and make sure that we were following it. And we're 18 to 22 years old. We,
Right.
if we want to go get Taco John's 4 times a week, like I did, that's kind of what we did. So,
just because of your frame when you're in high school, I mean, were you considered a hard gainer? I mean, where you were
Yeah.
having trouble putting on weight? So what, I've talked to some kids that train and they're hard gainers and they just get sick of eating because
yeah,
they're trying
it was.
Did you ever get to that point?
Yeah, I could eat anything I wanted, and no matter what I ate and how many calories I took in, I need to get in more. I was one of those guys that just burned it off, sitting on the couch watching TV. So it was hard for me to gain weight. That aspect serves me a little bit better now that I'm 36, as opposed to when I was 20 years old trying to put on weight. But yeah, I mean, it was, we would go do, I remember going in with Mark Oberly, our head trainer. We'd do our body fat test. And they'd say, okay, your body fat percentage this year or this summer going into camp was 3.5. You need to go. He's like, go to Taco Bell and get tacos. I'm like, Coberly, I just came from there. Like, I'm eating as bad as anybody on this team. And I just didn't gain weight. That's just how it was. So, I mean, by my senior year, I think I was around, I don't know what we listed. I think I was listed 218 or something, that wasn't right, but I was probably around 210 to 214, somewhere in that range.
So if like you could pick one thing that's like the facilities, when they finish the end zone, the black uniforms, if you had to choose one thing to like bring back and then add it to what you had, which one would you pick?
This is kind of going to be a cliche answer. I mean, obviously that stuff's awesome, but the biggest thing I would say right now that we didn't have, and that looking back, hindsight's 2020, but it's kind of the blue collar work culture that they have. We worked our butts off when we were there, and Getty, he ground us down and built us back up, and we were a hardworking blue collar team. Sometimes it didn't always show on Saturdays, with depth wise and things like that. But the difference, I think that, and I don't know when it started, if it was, Lazard's class or David Montgomery, it sounds like was a huge culture changer when it comes to this stuff. But, you hear the stories of they started doing workouts on Friday and Saturday nights. Like, hey, instead of going to the bars or instead of hanging out and, playing video games, we're going to go to the facility and get a workout in or watch a little extra film. And that just, for whatever reason, it wasn't really the culture maybe in all of college football, but it wasn't really something that was in our thoughts or that had been done before. And that's something that I wish, just doing that extra thing, especially for us to be successful. We didn't have the depth of a lot of teams. So the beginning of the year, we could always compete. As soon as guys started getting nicked up and our 2s and 3s were playing, that's when we would kind of suffer a little bit. And so just doing that extra thing. And I really think just that culture of blue collar mentality and we're going to outwork everybody. I love that about this team. I think it's made the biggest difference of anything they've done, facilities aside, money aside, everybody loves all that stuff and it's awesome for the fans, but for the guys that are in between the white lines and on the grass on Saturdays, I think that's been the big difference.
Yeah, I'm into that. I agree 100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So going back to your playing career, like if you can go back and change one outcome where you win instead of losing, which one would you pick?
Oh gosh, we lost a lot. So it's hard to really pick one, but probably the bowl game. My sophomore year down in Houston, we played TCU and we really played them well. We lost by a field goal. We had some bad turnovers. We gave up like an 80-yard touchdown at one point. It was just kind of a fluke deal. And that was, I would have really liked to get that one. And then it would have been, I was 2-2 against Iowa, won both games at our place, sophomore and senior year, lost freshman, junior year at their place. Would have been fun to get one at Kinnick. That's for sure.
So tell us about the Culberson game where it was the field goal-a-thon.
Well, I mean, I don't know what I'm allowed to say on here, but we couldn't piss a drop on offense all day. So thank God for Shaggy.
Right.
I mean, yeah, thank God for Shaggy. I mean, he came through and just kicked field goal after field goal and was just automatic. I remember that last one. I'm on a knee on the sideline, holding hands down the sideline, just watching. And it was one of those things where he just made them all day, and he bailed us out on offense all day. Our special teams as a whole did. We couldn't get a first down. We'd punt it down and pin them back deep, and then our defense would take care of business. So it's probably one of the most boring games to watch for the fans. I mean, honestly, it's kind of boring to play. We couldn't do anything, but Shaggy kicking that last field goal and us charging across the field to go get the trophy, especially in the year. I mean, we didn't know how bad the year was going to be, starting off like that, but to go get that and win that game as a senior, that was really special.
Yeah, I remember, you're right. It wasn't the most exciting thing to watch as a fan. But I remember I was having a flashback. I think it's Del Negro was an NFL kicker that made a big kick and jumped up in the air and blew his ACL.
Yes.
Yeah. And that was the first thing that flashed in my mind, that Shaggy's had this great game and he's super excited about winning the game. And then something freaky like that would happen. I was praying that wasn't going to happen at the end of the game.
Especially with Shaggy, just because he was an absolute string bean. I mean, there's not a lot of, muscles and stuff. He's just bones and ligaments. So it'd be very easy to tear something like that. But no, he was huge for us that game. And really, you look back, I mean, statistically, he was a really good kicker for us the whole time that he played. So he's a stud. He still is. He's still doing the kicking stuff and kind of mentoring the next generation of kickers. So he's awesome, and he came through in that game, and that was a huge win, a great memory for me.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah, what I remember about that game was Philip Bates. Like, he came on the scene. He was like, as a little kid, I'm like, who is this guy? He's talented as hell.
That's kind of how we were, like, who is this guy? But no, he was Phil Bates is one. I think at the time he was 17 years old. He was super young for his grade. I mean, built like a grown man. I mean, just balls and muscle everywhere. But just was a little kid, like just ran around with too much energy. At this point, I'm a 22-year-old senior. You feel like you're about 52 because you've just been beat up for 4 years. So he runs around with all this energy at practice, and you're like, hey man, chill out a little bit. You're making us all look bad. But we would go in this empty package, and they would continually walk out a linebacker on him. And we had never thrown the ball to him, and he's begging for the ball on the sideline. I mean, as a 17-year-old, he's one of the best physical athletes on the team. Just run fast, jump high, strong in the weight room. And so finally it was a time where it's like, hey, we got to take advantage of this. And Brett put a great ball up over his outside shoulder, and he tracked it, like a pro, and came down with it.
I remember him when he transferred. I was really bummed out when he transferred because I thought he had a really high ceiling. He
really did. I think it was one of those things. He wanted to play quarterback, so he transferred out to play quarterback, and then didn't end up playing quarterback really there either too much. But he was a great kid. I love being around him. I say kid just because he's like 3 years younger than me. But I mean, he was awesome, and he was a very, very special athlete. That's for sure.
Where did he end up? Where did he transfer?
Ohio, I think.
Okay.
Ohio, yep, Bobcats.
They had a stint with the Seahawks, I think.
He did. He played fullback for him.
Oh, really?
Which tells you just what kind of a physical athlete he was.
Wow. Can't be a string bean and play fullback in the NFL.
Yeah. Yeah, but a boy was built. I think he was like 250 when he was with them.
Oh, wow.
But, I mean, he was a 210-pound 17-year-old playing for us.
So I've never played football at Iowa State, but my worst set of fans that I hate watching games at is Texas A&M. What's the worst fans or worst place that you played at? And also, I was going to ask you, would you wish the old Big 12 was back, where we had we actually had 12 teams and the divisions and the whole thing? And also, did we lose a couple of the bad places when that whole thing blew up?
Yeah, it probably hurt us more than anything, because all of a sudden we lost. Although Missouri has done okay, in the SEC at times, but I love the old divisions. I love Colorado is my favorite place to play. I love that stadium on the side of a mountain like that. I loved seeing before the game, seeing the buffalo run around the field. They would have the trailer that it kind of stayed in for the game was right in front of the visitors' locker room. So we're about to come out. They run that buffalo around a circle around the field, and then they just run it full speed. It just sprints into that trailer and then boom into the back of it, and the whole thing shakes right in front of you. So I don't know if it's just tranked up and it doesn't know what it's doing, but it just runs full speed into that thing. So I love playing in Colorado. I always loved anytime Iowa State got a chance to beat Nebraska, and anything was fun. So for them to, get scared, jump ship, and go to the weaker Big Ten, it is what it is. Just a bad conference all the way around. But I miss those. I miss those teams. I miss the North and South. I miss A&M being a part of it. But what can you do? TCU fits. That makes sense. West Virginia will never really make sense to me.
Right.
But What can you do?
Especially now that we're good. I wish we can go back and just beat the living crap out of Nebraska, Missouri.
Exactly. I mean, how much fun does that look every year to go to Nebraska? I mean, I go over to Omaha for work, and of course, they all think they're going to win the national title this year, which
Yeah.
I don't know how you can have a more delusional fan base than Nebraska, but whatever. So it'd be so much fun to go over, every other year and have them come to your place every other year and just trounce the Cornhuskers. I mean, there's nothing better than that.
Yeah, when you cross the Nebraska border, it says "Welcome to 1995" on the.
Exactly. They all swear they're trying to figure out how Tommy Frazier has another year of eligibility, but
and figure out where Lawrence Phillips ended up.
We actually have a winning streak in Lincoln. Well, I'm so proud. Paul Rhodes was played in Lincoln, so we have a winning.
And when Nebraska committed like 8 turnovers that day, something like that.
The guy dropping the one run in the end zone.
That was Paul.
Yes, that's unbelievable. I mean, that was truly one of those games where just every bounce went our way. So I mean, I'll take it.
I think it was when you were playing and I was tailgating. And I don't even know if I've told him this story, but I was tailgating out front and there was a Nebraska fan in our section of where we were tailgating. And he went into one of the Kaibos and I was the next guy in line. I started yelling, "Hey, there's a Nebraska fan in there. Let's tip it over. 1, 2." And he comes running out. He's so mad at me. But we were.
That's hilarious.
I was just giving him a hard time.
You weren't going to mess it up too bad. You're the next guy to go in there.
No, I want to see him come out all blue. That's what will probably happen.
Just pee all over himself.
Yeah. So let's just talk about last year. So what was you obviously had a podcast which I listened to basically every episode, which was fantastic, by the way. And
thanks.
Last year, what do you think last year's team just was different between every other Iowa State team, where we actually it came down to one play and we changed, we actually got the luck this time? Do you think, was it just our talent's bigger or we just executed better?
Yeah, I think just as a whole, we're a more talented team now than at any point in Iowa State's history. We're a deeper team. The Jaquan Bailey situation is a prime example. He's the all-time leading sack master at Iowa State, and he's leaving, and the guy taking his spot led the nation in sacks last year. Brock Purdy is as good as any quarterback that's come through here, non-Seneca Wallace division. Sorry, Brett, but he's and I just hate seeing Brett Meyer's records come down off the wall. It's a real shame, but it's Brock Purdy is special. And there were times last year where I thought he was a little pedestrian or average even, but he's special. All those guys are.
I think that's Tom Herman trying to ruin this podcast since
Brett heard me talking crap, so he cut the cord.
That's right.
That's funny.
No, but our team's just more talented. And it's not too big a stage for these guys. They're not surprised to be in that situation because the preparation and the work that they put in. So when they get a chance to make a play at the end of the game, it's not too big for them. And so you see that with Mike Rose getting interception after interception at the end of a fourth quarter to seal a game. You see that with Breece Hall, with the chance to make a big play, he makes a cut, makes somebody miss and takes it to the house. I mean, we have big time players that are not as scared, not afraid and not scared to make that type of play in a big situation. And that's different for the Cyclones.
Don't you think part of it too? I mean, I was a high school basketball coach for 10 years and coached, from the time I was 18 till whenever, but don't you think part of the winning is momentum as well? I mean, once we've done it, now it's easier to do it the second time versus losing is the same way.
Yeah.
If you get in that situation and you lose, then you're thinking in the next time you're in that situation, well, it happened before.
Here we go again.
Here we go again. Right. So I think that's what Iowa State fans are having a hard time getting over because, I've been an Iowa State fan as long as I can remember. I mean, I can vaguely remember the old stadium. That's how flipping old I am. But, I finally have gotten to the mentality that when we get in the fourth quarter and we need to make a play, I'm anticipating us making a play rather than the opposite happening now, which has taken a long time for me to get over, let alone being one of these kids trying to get over this.
Yeah. I mean, for so long, Iowa State was not allowed to have nice things. I mean, we get to a point where we had a chance to do something special. I mean, case in point, we had a couple of years with, if we win our last game, when I was playing, we have a chance to go to the Big 12 title game. And it was a situation in a couple of years where we missed field goals late in the game. If we make no field goal is routine, But these are less than 35-yard field goals. If we make field goals, we go to the Big 12 title game. Who knows? Maybe we get run out of the building by Oklahoma, but it'd be a heck of an experience to do it. And we didn't get the opportunity. Where now the difference is these kids are young enough. Maybe they don't have the scar tissue. Now the senior class and junior class now, all they've known is success. And so it's a belief thing that, winning and having success is now a habit at Iowa State. And it's a habit that you don't ever want to break. And, I think as long as they stay true to what got them here, which I don't see that changing, it's just going to continue to build and snowball. And you got to figure these guys are primed to have the biggest year, in our history.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, I think it's the fact that what you just said is that they don't know anything different now, which is why I think we're all jacked up about what could happen this fall.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it's the fans that are scared.
Right. I mean, we've said this on the other podcast. I was at the flipping UAB game for basketball. I was at the Hampton game for basketball. Yep. And, been in many football games where I remember I called into the McCarney show before we played Texas A&M in Ames, and I was all jacked up for this game. I skipped a wedding that I'm still catching hell about that day to go to the game, and we just got blasted that day.
Don't get married in the fall. That's their fault.
Right. Yeah. That's a different conversation, but my mom didn't know why I was skipping a family wedding to go to a football. That's a different conversation. But
it never really works out when you make a decision that way, and it never.
Yeah. I feel like I'm the reason we lost.
Yeah.
I mean, I feel like if I went to the wedding, we probably would have won, but
yeah, that's the great thing about fandom. You're completely irrational. So.
Right. I think you're right though. I mean, I think obviously it starts at the top, and Campbell's attitude towards everything, when you watch him on the sidelines, he's not, even that first year when we're having a hard time winning, it was just looked like he was like trying to figure out tactically, what are we going to do next to try to fix this? And he was thinking big picture versus the typical fan that thinks the next play.
He never panicked. And now because he never panics, our kids don't panic. Even that first year when things weren't going great, it was, you look at the head coach and it looks like everything that's happening is happening, and he expected it to. It's all part of the plan, trust the process. And so by year 2, it got to a point where we were having success, and it's just built every year, from there. But he never panicked, and he instilled that in the team. And from the first guy down to the 105th, they all believe that, just give us a chance, give us the ball at the end of the fourth quarter, and we got a chance, and we got dudes out there that can make plays, and it'll fall our way. Now, maybe it won't always fall our way, but they believe that it will. And that's the biggest thing. If you think, here we go again type situation, it's going to be a lot harder to make those big plays.
And I think one thing that gained a lot of respect from me, I've never met Coach Campbell. I mean, but I'm watching it as a former coach. The night that he benched Jaquan Bailey, because he did that flip against Texas after that sack.
Yeah.
And didn't put him back in, probably. I don't know if he went back in at all. It would have been in the fourth quarter. And I remember them showing it on TV, him yelling into the headset, "Get him the F out of there."
Yeah.
And then he doesn't put him back in. It would have been easy to take this dude and put him back in, to say, and chew him out and then throw him back in. But man, he made a statement. And I've never talked to Jaquan, but I'm really wondering, how big of an impact did that have on his maturity and him being able to handle success from that point forward?
Yeah, I got to think that was probably a springboard for Jaquan getting to where he got to by the time he was a junior and senior. And it's easy for a coach to, they'll never admit it, but to have 2 sets of rules, those for your team and those for your stars. And you can always justify it to yourself and say, hey, I'm cheating the rest of the team, or I'm cheating all the other guys on this team, the other, 10 guys in the field. If I don't put them back out there, it's not fair to them. But if you're looking big picture, like he has this entire time, and if you're looking down the road and building the culture and building the program, he made the right decision, and it showed. And he, doing something like that, it draws a line in the sand and says, hey, if Jaquan Bailey can get benched for kind of making a bonehead decision, I certainly can get benched, or I certainly can miss reps or lose tick because of that. So, I mean, that's one of those turning points that a lot of people probably won't even remember that happened, but it draws a line in the sand that says we're not going to stand for the old BS that has lost us games or held our program back. And we're going to make the tough decisions and go to the next level. And we have.
The last time I saw that happen, and from memory, is that Eustachy's first year, he has Pfizer, and I think we were like 15-15, but we're playing at Iowa, and Pfizer isn't doing what Eustachy wants to do, and he benches him, and we lose the game because Pfizer's benched, and all the fans. That was back when the only way you could communicate with another fan was on a message board or something.
Message board, oh yeah, absolutely.
And I remember everybody's ripping into Eustachy, but then, he drew a line in the stand with Pfizer, and then look what Pfizer did the next year. I mean, first All-American. And
it's one game. It's one game for the rest of the season, or one game for the rest of that kid's career.
Correct.
If you give the guy a pass, who's to say he doesn't continue to push the boundary and see what he can get away with?
Right.
Where when you just draw a line and say, hey, I'm not putting up with that, now the kid has to make a decision. And sometimes it works out great, and sometimes it doesn't. In both those cases, I'd say it worked out pretty well.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
And that mixed in with the Joe Bailey thing was whatever the heck happened to Jacob Park happened the same time. And then that kind of got lost in the shuffle. And then Kyle Kemp comes, and we haven't looked, and we beat Oklahoma. We haven't looked back since.
Exactly. Kyle Kemp, won some sort of a fan raffle, got to go out and play quarterback and beat Oklahoma. So no, I mean, he's obviously, I don't know Kyle. He's obviously a heck of a kid that the players believed in him. He stepped in what would be, I can't picture a tougher situation to step into, and to go down there and win that game. But stepped up, was obviously a leader for those guys. They believed in him, and he pulled off something that will, go down in history.
Yeah, that was a crazy day.
Yeah, like I didn't even get to watch the game. I was at the grocery store.
He was bagging groceries.
I was working while I was
Dude,
going.
It's good for you. It's good for you.
My mom texted me like, "Hey, we just won." I'm like, "You're not trying to be funny, are you?"
That's where you just quit your job on the spot,
Like,
just
are you
on principle.
I'm one of the biggest Iowa State fans out there, and I just missed the best game.
Yeah, he wasn't bagging groceries in Aiken. He was bagging groceries in Arizona.
Yeah,
and in a really old place.
Yeah.
The average age of the person he was bagging groceries for was 80. So,
well, then if it makes you feel any better, they needed it at least. You weren't carrying groceries out for somebody like me who can carry my own stuff.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. That's a good point.
So tell us about the throwback pass.
Oh my gosh. Had been begging for that since I was a freshman.
It's an awesome play. I mean, great highlight.
It was, and it's one of those things where in practice we ran a bunch, and Brett, can just catch everything. And he never understood as a quarterback, why it was hard to catch a ball in traffic. Because if you've never done anything but play catch, catching the ball is easy. I remember the first time we ran in practice and there was guys around him when he caught it, and he just fumbled the ball down his leg. He comes back, he's like, that is a lot harder when you're running full speed and there's guys in there. He's like, yeah, thank you. Appreciate that. We finally dialed it up in a game and called it, and, got luckily had time, and I didn't get killed back there, and delivered an absolute dime to Brett down the sideline. I mean, if he does anything after the catch, he should score, right? But I think I graduated. I think I ended my senior year leading the Big 12 in passer rating. So, one for one for 24 yards. So,
well, I don't think
that was fun. Those plays are always fun.
I'm sorry to interrupt you, but I don't think people realize, you're for your career, you averaged like 15 yards of reception. Am I right?
We
knew it. That's insane.
My freshman year, my freshman year I had over 800 yards and only not even 40. I think I had 39 catches. So over 21 yards that year, and over 19 the next year. Honestly, we didn't really throw the ball that much. I mean, you look at Brett's career passing attempts, it's nowhere near what like Brock Purdy does right now. Yeah. And so, Brett and I always kind of jokingly talk about the fact that, our fullback, our junior year, our fullback, Ryan Cook, or our sophomore year, I guess, had like 12 touchdowns or something like that. And he was a stud. But, Brett's quarterback coach at the time, Todd Fitch, would always complain like, hey, it'd be nice to just throw a couple slants on the goal line, get Brett a couple cheapies every once in a while. Every other quarterback gets some cheap slants and stuff on the goal line. And we hand it to the fullback. But that's what happens when you have a Nebraska O-line coach as your OC. But we just didn't throw the ball a whole lot. So when we did, it was, we threw slants and hitches to, Flynn and JD. And then I just kind of hung out until it was time to throw the ball downfield. And then we try and go jump over somebody. So.
It seemed like, just getting ready for this, I went back and watched as many highlights of you as I could. And because the memory isn't what it used to be, but it seemed like.
Tell me about it.
So are you right-handed or left-handed?
I'm right-handed.
So it seems like a lot of your one-handed catches were with your left hand.
Yeah, they just happened
Why?
to be, for whatever reason, they just happened to be down the sideline, where the left sideline. So my left hand is my, upfield hand. And so, the biggest thing when you're catching the ball with one or two hands is you got to stop it first. Give it a surface to stop. So you're going to put your upfield hand up. And honestly, probably a lot of that comes from growing up playing baseball. My dad was a, varsity baseball coach in Indianola. You catch with your left, you throw with your right. And so it's probably
sure.
more comfortable. Yeah, more comfortable to catch it one-handed with my left hand, at least for me.
And your dad played at UNI, is that right?
Yep, played baseball at UNI. Yep, and then
What's
played
he think?
in the Giants organization after that.
What's he think about all of these? The only Division I or big time baseball program left in Iowa is in Iowa City. I mean,
Oh, it pisses him off. I mean, I think he might still have the stolen base record at UNI, and I mean, he'll have that, forever now since the program's gone. But I mean, he would love to be able to go back and watch his alma mater play baseball, and he doesn't get the chance to do that. And there's, countless Iowa State, former Iowa State baseball players that are in the same boat. So it sucks. And the fact that the only major D1 baseball program in the state now is the Hawkeyes is also disgusting. But that's the way college sports are, I guess. Now it's basketball and sometimes and then always football, and then everything else is kind of a welfare sport.
We still have more College World Series appearances than Iowa does. So
I didn't know that. I'm using that next time I'm talking to a Hawk fan. So thank you.
Yeah, I walked on. I mean, just so I had one moment in the sun, I walked on to the Iowa State baseball program when I was in college and got cut. Obviously, it was too slow.
Left-handed catcher.
Yeah. When I was in college, Visha, we played Oklahoma State every year, and so I would go to the baseball field and I watched Robin Ventura play, I believe, 3 years.
Oh wow!
But that was like one of 20 people in the stands at the old Cap Tim field. And
yeah,
it's really bummed me out too. I mean, I used to coach at North Polk, and I had a kid that played baseball at UNI, and he's still pretty wound up about it that it's gone away. But unless there's a big influx of money.
That's not David Conrad, is it?
No.
Oh, okay.
It actually is it's not David Conrad. Why does that name ring a bell? But,
he's a North Polk guy that played baseball at UNI as well. So
okay.
Yeah, he's one of my good friends. So
Tom Owens, the guy that I'm talking to. Shout out to Tom if he's listening to this. But but I ran into him. He played for the Marlins for a while, and
oh wow,
his organization. And I ran into him at an airport in Florida one time, and he was taking his kids down where he played. But anyway, it just bums me out that we don't have another team in the state that has it, because I think it would, if they could figure out a way to pull it off. And I know it's never going to happen. I'm not calling Jamie about it. I mean, I know it's a money thing. I mean, I totally get the finances behind it, but I think it'll be a lot of fun. I mean,
baseball in the summertime, it's an American thing. I mean, baseball in the summertime, and then especially this time of year when you're talking College World Series, it's just kind of one of those things that Iowa State fans miss out on. I don't feel as plugged into the College World Series and college baseball, just because it's just not a thing for the school that I root for. So yeah, it's too bad. So,
and I don't know if I'm going to step on Thomas's thunder here, but the Supreme Court decision that came down yesterday, what's your thoughts on this whole image and, kids making money on their stuff?
I'm gonna be suing for back pay here real quick, but no. I mean, honestly, if you look at it, it's kind of cool that the NCAA has always been amateurs and the kids are playing it, quote unquote, for the love of the game. But if you look at it from a legal standpoint, I mean, and the fact that I had several surgeries in college. Brett threw me into a lot of concussions. My wife would say that my memory is not very good. I mean, you're asking a lot of these kids and then not paying them. And, a kid on a music scholarship can go cut an album and make money on that. Somebody on a theater scholarship can be in a movie and get paid for that. But somebody that's on an athletic scholarship can't make a dime off off their talent. So to me, I don't, it's going to be hard to regulate this. I don't know how this doesn't turn into a recruiting deal where it's like, hey, we can guarantee X amount of money on name, image, likeness. It's going to be hard to compete with the Longhorns and something like that, where there's just more money in their program than any other program in college football or college athletics as a whole. it's the right, I think in my personal opinion, I think it's the right thing to do, the right step. I just don't know how you do it well. And that, that's above my pay grade. And it's, people hopefully way smarter than me are at a table and in a room talking about that, but it's going to be really hard to regulate and do it the right way. But at the same time, where we're at in today's society, to just say, hey, you guys got to go bang into each other for 2 hours a day and 3 hours on Saturday, and we're not going to give you anything for it. That's tough.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. When we were at the Toledo game of your senior year, I think, or whenever your opening game was, we went to the tent size locker room right in front of Jack Trice, and there was a number 1 jersey. That was you, obviously. And that was the first time I ever looked at a price tag. I was like a really young kid. I'm like, oh man, Dad's really gonna buy me this, and so you should have had some money coming out of that.
Blythe in the back, but we all knew why it was hanging there.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, it didn't ever have our names on the back, but I just remember that. I mean, there were a lot of number 1 jerseys and a lot of number 7 jerseys in the stands when Brett and I were there, and obviously that was because we had played since we were freshmen. We were both Iowa kids, so we related to the fan base. So that's who they're going to market as a school, which it makes complete sense. I don't fault them for that. It was, it was awesome being a part of it as a player and seeing your jersey number in the stands and in the crowd, going through tailgating. But if guys are making money on it now and we couldn't then, that kind of sucks.
Yeah, right. So I'm assuming he's the video game dude. He was on old NCAA football, right?
Yeah, he helped me out in the dynasty for sure.
I won so many Heismans on there.
Yeah, that's for sure. Yeah.
So what was that like the first time you saw yourself in a video game?
That was really cool. So, I was like my freshman year, I was on the game, but I don't think I was any good. And then after I had a good, successful freshman year, I was the quote unquote impact player on offense, which means they gave you extra. I think I was always faster on the game than I was in real life, which I appreciate that. EA Sports, appreciate it. But no, that was awesome. We would always, if I'm playing somebody in the game, in college, it's pretty easy to defend because only one guy's getting the ball thrown to him all game. I'm not sorry, JD, but I'm not throwing the ball to JD or Flynn or anybody. I'm not handing the ball to Stevie Hicks in the backfield. I'm throwing to number 1 about 57 times a game. But no, that's cool. That's really cool to be able to see that.
Yeah, your team was so fun to play with because Brett Meyer was obviously when you're playing a video game, you want a fast quarterback, and then a receiver you can just chuck it deep to, and that's exactly what we had in your team, which is perfect. And I had a lot of fun as a little kid playing that video game.
Yeah, you and me both. There's a lot of time wasted in our apartment. The little bit of downtime we had, there's a lot of time wasted playing video games. So
he's even geeked out to the point now where these old video games, he's put in the Iowa State actual sounds.
Yeah, you can put the sounds.
Really?
Yeah.
See, it wasn't that cool back when I was playing, but
you can make you really fast now if you wanted to.
That's kind of BS how we can't play with even with our basketball teams at the Fred era, we didn't have video games, and now the Matt Campbell era, we don't have a top 10 team. We don't have video games.
I know you miss out on that. Cause what was the last year that they did it?
It was 2014.
14. Yeah. That's too bad they made the rule. I'm sure EA Sports hated it because that's such a moneymaker for those guys. But, and yeah, that's just that's what high school player, college football fans in general, that's what they want to do is when they can't watch their team, they're going to play with their team on video games. And then as players, that's something that I'll always remember. Hey, I was on a video game.
He was talking about, being an Iowa State fan, waiting for the next shoe to drop. So what he just said, was right. And then we think back to last year. We finally have this fantastic team, and we can't have any flipping fans there. We can't tailgate.
What an Iowa State thing that is.
I know. Unbelievable. I've got friends that have had season tickets for 30 years that skipped last year because, there was no point in doing it. And that's why I think this first tailgate out of the blocks is going to be.
It's going to be awesome, and it's going to be. There could be some trouble.
$100,000 picking up cans.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, people are. People are going to have a full year's worth of tailgating that they're going to try and get all out in one afternoon or one morning. So I'm praying for everyone involved, but it's going to be a lot of fun. That's for sure. There's going to be some reunions and some hugs and some tears and a lot of beers thrown back. That's for sure.
So you think about, we come out, we beat Iowa and then go to Vegas the next weekend, right?
Yep.
And Vegas is a night game. Am I right?
Yep.
7:30 kick. Yep.
So there's going to be people that are still hungover from the Iowa game.
Yeah.
on that Allegiant flight to Vegas.
And it's a 7:30 kick there, so which means it's 9:30 our time, like Central Time. So it's going to feel late. I put a poll on Twitter because my wife's never been to Vegas. I actually put a poll on Twitter of if we thought that my wife Brittany would make it to kickoff at 7:30 as a Vegas newbie. It was, overwhelmingly people do not believe in my wife as far as making it to kickoff. But Iowa State fans, I don't think Vegas knows what's coming.
No.
Vegas is a party town. Well, we're going to put that to the test. We might drink them out of Busch. Well, for sure, drink them out of Busch Light. If they're not stocking up right now, they're doing it wrong. And we might burn that whole place down. So,
and if Busch Light is not doing some type of promo out there, you and I need to be on their advertising staff, because that is fish in a barrel. I mean,
they were smart putting corn cobs on their cans,
right?
Just knowing that I don't know what percentage of Busch Light is consumed in Iowa, but it's got to be a pretty high percentage, I feel like.
Well, I think you're also going to see an Iowa State jersey at the iHeart Music Festival that's out there too. I think somebody's going to stumble into that thing, because that's going on the same weekend.
It'd just be smart. I mean, because there's going to be enough drunk Iowa State fans running around there that are there. If you want to get a big rise out of the crowd, that's a cheap way to do it.
That is their new goal for Sound the Sirens. We're going to get a Sound the Sirens T-shirt on one of the iHeart Music guys.
That would be sweet.
That's what we need. That's our new goal.
All right. Well,
that would be pretty sweit.
So Todd, tell us what you're doing. If there's something you want to, you're working with a charity, or there's something you want to promo. I mean, what are you doing now? What's the day in the life of Todd Blythe right now?
Working and being the dad, pretty much. I do medical device sales. I cover Iowa, Nebraska, South Dakota, and then just picked up half of Illinois. So a lot of windshield time, a little bit of travel, and then come home at night to a 4-year-old little boy named Jace and a little daughter, Kaylin, that just turned 1 last week.
Oh, wow.
So just try to be a dad to those two and squeeze a little Iowa State athletics when I can.
So medical devices. So John Neal, I'm assuming, is a medical device.
Yep.
And so is Jared Holman.
And so is Brett Meyer. And I mean,
really,
it is an ex-athlete industry. There's no doubt about it. If you're not good enough to make any money playing your sport, you go into medical device sales. A lot of sales, like anything, is just having some confidence, knowing how to talk to people, and that's something that a lot of times athletes can do because you've got a mic shoved in your face from the time you're a freshman in college, or a lot of times sooner, and while you're in high school. And a lot of these doctors, they want to talk ball. So it's if you're going to sit in the OR with them for 4 or 5 hours during a surgery, it's having something to talk about, like the time that you kicked the crap out of Texas A&M. That helps. So, and a lot of these doctors, are Iowa fans. They all, went to the medical school at University of Iowa. So it's always fun to have a little banter back and forth with them.
Sounds like the minimum height for a medical sales guy is 6'4" as well, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's not a lot of little Oompa Loompas running around there slinging medical devices. So
have you gotten your chance to coach Little League yet? For the first
I haven't. No. So my son is 4. He turned 4 just in February, and he did soccer for the first time this spring, which was just hilarious because it's not soccer. It's just like
it's the moving group of people.
It's 20 little kids. They have like 5 balls out there at once, and they're playing Simon Says and stuff. And I'm like telling them to coach get these kids in some drills and let's work on footwork. But it's fun. I can't wait to the point where he's getting in some more organized sports, and I'd love to jump in and be a little league coach. And I'm looking forward to those days for sure. Although honestly, my daughter is a tough one. She's 1 year old, and they kind of wrestle around. She beats up on him. So he's pretty soft-hearted, and she's tough. So,
well, in the words of Kenny Chesney, speaking as a father whose youngest is 16, don't blink, because I remember those days of when I coached him. I coached my oldest is heading into orthopedic surgery residency at Iowa, as a matter of fact.
Oh, wow.
And I remember coaching those guys, and my daughter and my youngest son, and it seems like yesterday. And I think as a parent, you think you're so busy and you can't do anything else, and never get to go out to eat and getting a babysitter and all this stuff. But man, that time just flew by. It was so much fun. So I'm a little jealous of you. You get to start. You get to start doing that eventually again, because I've actually thought about volunteering to coach a random team just because.
Just to get around it a little bit.
I can't find a dad to do it if I said I'd do it, but I haven't done that yet.
If you miss it too much, let me know and you can babysit. So
okay, well, I never volunteered to babysit. Although, if you're coaching 4-year-old soccer, there is a fine line.
Oh, it is babysitting. It's hurting it's hurting cats out there, but
Yeah, I remember when I coached Little League, I had a third grader that was in the center field. It was 80,000 degrees out, and I'm hitting fly balls, and there's one of them laying on his back, flat on his back, and I go sprinting out there, and I go, "What's wrong?" And he goes, "I'm just tired."
I get it, man. I would have loved to do that at practice at Iowa State every once in a while.
Oh, yeah.
That wouldn't have gone over real well with Coach Getty and Coach Mack. So
I'm sure.
So do you and Brett plan on doing the podcast again this fall, or no? Have you been
yeah,
talking?
we're gonna do it again this fall. We kind of shut it down for the off season. Just honestly just didn't know what we'd talk about without Iowa State football. And we're both busy. I got 2 little kids. He's got 2 little girls. So just kind of shut it down for the off season, and some we'll stick to doing during the football season. But I'm excited. We got some good ideas for what to do differently and how to be, kind of better at it this time around. Last time it was just kind of literally a conversation of us talking that we had on a daily basis anyways. And then we just recorded it. So we'll be a little bit more organized, and we'll have a better idea of what we want to do this year. But yeah, I'm excited to get back into it, and it's fun to just kind of vent your feelings and your frustrations and just, talk it out. It's a good therapy session. So as a sports fan,
it'd be nice not to have to talk about Corona every week. And I could just,
oh my gosh,
just stick to Iowa State football the whole time.
Yeah, no doubt. We can actually talk about what it was like at the game and, the tailgating and who we ran into before the game versus, just swapping stories of what it's like working from home and staring at a computer all day. So.
Yeah, no kidding.
All right. Well, there's one last thing I want to ask you. So like the 12 team playoff, what's your thoughts on that?
I love it. I love that they're expanding it. 12 teams is going to be tough. And I'm not sure, what is the criteria? Is it I know there's a certain number of automatic bids. Is it conference champions?
Conference champions, and then like the
4 at large or something?
4 at large, and then the ranked teams. So like somehow
Okay.
Notre Dame, even if Notre Dame's number 1, they'll be like the 5th ranked team is the highest they can go if they
because they're not in the conference.
Yeah.
Well, it serves them right. Join a conference.
Yeah.
Like, what are you trying to do at this point? But I think it's awesome. I mean, playoffs is as pure a thing in sports as there is. Don't get me wrong. I loved bowl games, and I loved the experience I had going to bowl games is awesome. It sounds like that'll still be a part of it, especially for the first, quote unquote, first round of the playoff system. But I think if you truly want to crown a champion, a playoff is how you do it. So I think it'll be awesome. It'll be great for more than the same 4 teams every year to be in it, because that's basically, it was just a repeat every year, especially with the top 2. So it'll be fun to see more teams get involved, and then you will actually be able to compare. Last year, does a Cincinnati team get in? Iowa State would have been a playoff team last year.
Right.
And see what happens, once you get in a playoff, and truly anything can happen at that point. So I think it'll be fun. It'll certainly give us stuff to talk about all season on the podcast. So
Can you imagine if Iowa and Iowa State have a rematch in the playoffs someday?
Oh my gosh, that'd be
awesome.
Talk about all-time bragging rights.
Yeah.
We've always begged for an Iowa State Iowa bowl game.
Yeah, that would be just on
Yeah, but I think bowl games are smarter than that, because they would. I mean, you talk about Iowa State fans taking over a town when we go to a bowl. If we're playing Iowa, it would be the entire state of Iowa would just be moving down to that town for 3-4 days. So, and nothing good could come of that. So, but yeah, a playoff game between the Hawkeyes and the Cyclones would be outstanding.
I remember the 9/11 game when Seneca's game was played in November, and
Yes,
that was it was a much
I
higher-
loved that.
Right, I did too, and I think by getting that deep into the season, both teams are much better.
Yeah, we're better, and it means more because you know what the stakes are.
Right.
And everybody else plays, a rivalry weekend is at the end of the season. So
Right.
I love that we at least play them every year. And it's a thing that's a tradition that we do, but I really wish that we played them. Excuse me. I really wish we played them at the end of the year.
Yeah,
I
I agree.
think it'd carry a little bit more weight.
Sure, I agree.
And there's one more thing that with the playoff, we have to get turf if that happens.
Never.
We're going to have to.
Never. You and Brett agree on this. Brett is a hardcore turf. We need turf fan. And we have a school that is dedicated to having good grass.
Right.
I get that.
We got to have some place for the OU cheerleaders.
But
Great.
imagine okay, instead of Drake, we're playing Alabama in that weather. Like, what is
Good.
that?
Slow them down because they're way faster than us.
Okay, that's one example, but that's like an excuse. But we're getting to a point where we have athletes to match up with these guys. I don't know.
Yeah.
We need to get the turf guys just to figure out a way to put something under it to heat it up a little bit so it's not a rock hard.
I see both sides, but come on.
Yeah. And I just like the tradition of playing on grass. I mean,
I do too.
turf's great. You know what you're going to get. You can probably make crispier cuts as a receiver on turf, and we'll never have the grass as nice as down south when you're basically running around on a putting green. But I like playing on grass. I like coming away with grass stains on your uniform. Not too many. That means you didn't get tackled a whole lot. But I like playing on grass. It's kind of a Jack Trice thing. So if they go to turf, it is what it is. I wouldn't be too mad about it. It's not that big a deal to me. But if I got to have something to fight with Brett Meyer about on our podcast, he's a turf guy and I'm a natural grass guy.
Well, I think you have less joint injuries buying grass, right? I mean,
you don't have to tell me. I tore my ACL in our indoor doing a players only 7-on-7 on field turf after our freshman year. So
yeah, I think
you're just destroying my argument here. Come on.
Oh,
come on.
That's all right.
Yeah,
I mean,
I remember slant.
I remember
your
Jack
turf
Trice
one is not good.
When I was in sophomore in high school, I went to camp at Donnie Duncan. That tells you how old I am. I went to Donnie Duncan's football camp, and it was the fuzzy cement. I mean, that thing was so hard that I can't imagine.
That was the true like AstroTurf, where it's almost like cement just painted green, and they cover it with the same stuff that's on a tennis ball. That was no fun. We would be in the indoor or the rec center my freshman year for winter conditioning still before the indoor facility was being finished, and run around on that stuff. You go down, you got to pay good money to get me to dive for a ball on that stuff. I mean, if there's no fans in the stands and there's not some, on the line, it's tough to convince me to dive for a ball on that stuff, because you're going to come up with, half your legs still down on the turf.
I've, just thought of something I've never asked a former player, but around the edge of Jack Trice, there's that strip of cement.
Mm-hmm.
And every time you watch a game and a guy goes out of bounds and he hits that patch of cement,
it's like ice.
Flips.
Yep.
And I'm just waiting for somebody to blow an ACL on that thing. I mean, that's one thing.
We're lucky at that it's not as close as some places are. But I know like Reggie Bush tore his ACL in, I want to say St. Louis.
Yeah.
And because of that same thing, he got pushed off the turf, went onto the cement, kind of slid into the wall and tore his ACL and sued the stadium. So it's just not smart. It's got to be a long ways away. And I get you have to move a lot of machinery and the big, automatic booms for cameras. And there's a lot of, stuff. So they want a hard surface to drive on. I get that, but you better have a lot of space between the white lines and the cement, because it's not safe. You hit that stuff and you just go sliding.
Yeah, every time
zero control.
Every time I see somebody fall backwards, just trying to keep their balance, I keep thinking, somebody's going to be grabbing their knee.
Exactly.
Yeah, and
and it'd be a stupid way to get somebody hurt.
Oh my God!
Very preventable injury.
I know.
We better not clip to this back.
No, we're not.
Yeah.
I'm knocking on wood. We're not going to jinx anybody here.
No doubt. Even on the Hawkeyes, I don't wish injuries like that on anybody.
Gosh,
so.
No.
I mean, like a tweaked ankle and they got to miss a quarter or two. That's fine, but no big injuries.
Because Reggie Bush was never the same after that.
No, I mean, his whole thing was being quick and fast and out athleticing people. And you do something like that, especially later in his career, you don't bounce back the same.
Right.
So, like, what's your predictions for next year? If you right now,
I think we're favored. Are we favored in 11 games next year?
Yeah, everyone better.
I mean, I was listening to Brent and Chris Williams on their podcast earlier today and kind of their predictions. And I mean, it's sad to say that a 9-win season would be kind of disappointing, but that's kind of where we're at. I mean, winning 10 ball games would be, 10-2 would be an unbelievable season going into the postseason. Some of it kind of depends on who those two losses would be to determine if it's a quote unquote or truly a great season for us. But I think 10-2 would be a heck of a year. It'd be a year that we've never had. So
right,
finally get to 10 wins would be fun. Really good.
Yeah, it'd be nice to check that one off. It's past time. We're due to have a double-digit win team, and this team is certainly capable.
Absolutely.
Which is another frustrating thing about last year. We would have definitely had 10 or more wins last year because of the games that would be canceled because of non-conference.
Yeah, and just the opening game. The other thing that I really want to avoid this year is coming out and laying an egg in game one. Yeah. That's been a tough look for us the last few games or the last few years. So I'd like to come out and look like a top 10 team right out of the gates. So that'd be a nice next step to take for us as well.
Yeah, that'd be another nice box to check.
Yes.
Exactly. Let's look competent in the first game. So.
All right. Well, Todd, we really appreciate you
Thanks.
coming on.
Yeah, Todd, that was awesome. We really appreciate you coming on. This is purely just love of the Cyclones is why he's doing this, and I'm helping him out with this. And we're trying to find as many guys that have worn the uniforms as possible to kind of peek behind the curtain, as they say. So we really appreciate you coming on, and good luck with all of the medical stuff.
I appreciate it.
Some more than Meyer. We'll say that the way I have him on. Right?
Oh, I'm always trying to do that. No, I appreciate you guys having me on. This is fun. I mean, it's the exact same reason that Brett and I, kind of started that thing up last year with Chris Williams calling us and asking us if we're interested. We're not asking, he's not paying us. We're not doing anything like that. It's truly like, hey, we talk about the Cyclones weekly. We might as well stick a microphone in front of our face and record it. So it's purely because we love the Cyclones and we enjoy talking about them. So this is fun. I really appreciate you guys having me on. So
email us your t-shirt size and we'll send you some swag too.
That'd be great. I will absolutely do that.
I might see you in the tailgate lots in Vegas, maybe.
Yeah, you will absolutely see me. I hope I can still see everything that's going on at that
You'll be
point.
stepping over him. So
we might be fighting the same battles then.
Yeah. All right, Todd. Well, we appreciate it.
Thanks again, Todd. Appreciate it. Good luck.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.